Moving on to the next story, Social Democratic Party SDP in Kogi State has expressed its profound disappointment and outrage at the recent suspension and recall process initiated against Senator Natasha Akpoti, lawmaker representing Central Senatorial District of the state. In a statement signed by factional Kogi SDP Secretary Isaiah Davis Ijele, he fingered the current administration in the state as the brain behind the recall process. According to the statement, while we acknowledge that the Senate has established rules for addressing misconduct among its members, we firmly believe that the actions taken against Senator Akpoti are demonstrably excessive and politically motivated. Senator Akpoti, a staunch advocate for the people of Kogi State, has consistently championed the interests of our constituents and Kogi State as a whole. Her dedication to public service is evident in her tireless efforts to address critical issues facing the state, including poverty, unemployment, and inadequate infrastructure. Ijele stated that the suspension and recall process of Senator Natasha Akpoti Udwara represents a blatant attempt to silence her voice and undermine her unwavering commitment to serving the people. While continuing, Ijele said the SDP denounces this blatant disregard for due process and the principles of fairness. We stand firmly behind Senator Akpoti and condemn this politically motivated attack on her character and integrity. We call upon all supporters of the SDP, as well as all citizens who believe in the rule of law and the principles of equity, to reject the unjust attempt to silence Senator Akpoti Natasha. Well, Dr. Eunice, you're a woman, right? I would like to know how you feel about Senator Natasha's suspension first.
Okay.
Before we delve into the main issue.
Well, I'm smiling. Let me start from the fact that I love law and order.
All right.
I'm a lecturer, I'm a teacher.
Okay.
And I'm also the product of a teacher. My mother is a retired teacher.
Beautiful.
And from a very young age, we are taught to obey rules and regulations. That's the problem, one of the core issues that we find in Rivers State today. Even if something had gone astray, and you are now called, it's now called to your attention, and you now say, look at laid down rules. What is so difficult to follow laid down rules, for crying out loud? What's so difficult? If there's, like, we just said something about the Senate now, about the Senate president trying, and we said, if it is their way of operation, then let it be. Action. They have said that they normally change seats from time to time, considering during different, periods, and burdened around different factors. And they said, move to another seat. Instruction, no.
Okay.
So I don't see any hard and fast rule there. I don't see any reason why. Maybe there have been underlying issues before, but obey, there's this thing. Is it a phrase, a slogan? Obey before complain.
All right. Well, she has been suspended as regards to that. But now we're seeing moves to recall her from the Senate. Now, I'm trying to know, what actions by Senator Natasha Akpoti might warrant or might trigger those people now to call for her suspension and also recall her from the Senate?
You mean her own constituents?
Yes, constituents. Right? Yes, exactly.
I'm sure they're ashamed of her actions, because the Senate rightly said that, from what I read, that they shall be suspended. There must be punishments, for 6 months. But then, if she apologizes, they are going to review it. What is there?
So are we stressing on the fact that she needs to apologize? Is that what?
Well, that was what was stated, that if she apologized, they might now review it. But rather than going to apologize, she now took a step further, and I'm sure it must have angered her people and made them to be really ashamed, and that's why they want to recall her. They may have other reasons too.
Well, she have made several claims that her suspension is as a form of silencing her from, saying so many things that she have encountered. from the hands of allegedly from the hands of the Senate's President, Godswill Akpabio. What do you make of that as well?
Now, you know, when it comes to, you don't use personal issues to try to win a war. Do you understand? You don't, because you have an issue with somebody, you're calling, they say, hey, the other day, look at what you did. Why was it not addressed that time? That's me, oh. Why do you want to? For me, I feel it's a form of blackmail for as long as I'm concerned. Because if really there was a sexual harassment, if really, then I believe it should have been addressed and nipped in the bud from whenever.
All right.
And not to keep it in the cooler.
Okay.
And then when Wahala can come and say, hey, you see what you did before? For me, I mean, it's a no-no for me.
All right.
It is a no-no, no.
Okay, so Dr. Henry, let me get your take as regards to this. What's your reaction from what the SDP are saying, you know, kicking against her being recalled from the Senate? I mean, considering the fact that she has already been suspended for 6 months.
From the onset of this matter, I keep saying that, look, I don't want to, because what I said from the onset is what I have been saying each time you ask me about this. Leadership is a very important thing that we shouldn't disregard.
Okay.
The last time I appeared on this program, you asked me, and I told you that the whole thing began of the changing of seat from one position to another. And if I were to be the Senate President, when she, called for the reason why her seat was changed, and I said here that should have been, look, this is our normal routine. It's not because you are the minority in the House that your seat has to be changed. No, this is our normal routine in this House.
All right.
The whole of this matter would have been, dead and buried.
Okay.
But for the fact that there were back and forth on this matter, it has to be, which I told you from the one, it generates from the relocation of seats to the sexual harassment. I told you that the sexual harassment, for me, it wasn't part of what was raised at the floor of the National Assembly, especially the Senate.
Okay, so what do you make of this, the SDP now coming to say that, to condemn her suspension as well as her recall process? Do you think they're just, doing that for political gain or for the party interest?
Nigeria is one country in the world that sometimes I try to take a study to know whether we are a special species when it comes to our reactions to issues sometimes. Okay. Now, what you are seeing currently has political undertone. That, look, the way this woman was suspended wasn't okay. And a whole lot of persons are saying, look, a suspension wasn't in order and all of that. But however, the suspension was made, which for me is now for her to think on how to return back.
Okay.
And if there are areas for her to make amends, fine and good. But for the SDP, and from one thing I'm getting from this message now, this SDP is a faction of SDP in Kogi State.
All right.
It's a faction.
Oh, very interesting.
You understand?
Okay.
That are now coming out to say that, look, you have to do this. This thing is expected.
Would you say it's politically motivated?
Of course, of course. Because it's like what happened in Akwa Ibom State when the Senate President, a woman was called and she was asked, why are you here? The woman said she doesn't know why. She's here. That she was given 5,000 naira. You understand?
Yeah, we actually saw the
and
video.
so forth. So the same thing can also repeat itself in Kogi State.
All right, well, let's take a look at our last story. We are quite behind time. Our former Vice President and presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the 2023 general election, Atiku Abubakar, has confirmed the formation of a coalition aimed at challenging the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, in the 2027 election cycle. Atiku made the revelation during a press conference held on Thursday, March 20, 2025 at the Shehu Musa Yaradua Center in Abuja. The event, which brought together concerned leaders and political stakeholders in Nigeria, was convened to address the controversial declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State by President Bola Tinubu a couple of days ago. When asked whether the emerging coalition would serve as the major opposition against the APC in the upcoming elections, Atiku responded affirmatively, saying yes. Well, it's quite a long read, and I'm going to put it there. To begin with you, I would like to get your reactions as regards to these, Atiku confirming, to join coalition in order to oust the president come 2027. From your own view, do you feel this is going to be possible? This is going to play out come 2027?
Oh yeah, they're free to coalesce as much as they can. Right. I mean, it's politics.
Okay.
I mean, it's opposition. So if you know that you're not strong enough, why don't you go and get other people to join you to fight? But one thing now, I'm talking now as an APC state officer, okay?
Right.
Now what I can assure them is that they can just try, but they cannot, they can't push us off. We'll see. We are coming back.
All right. So what factors do you think are driving Atiku and other opposition leaders to form this coalition against the APC?
Yeah, like I said, they believe, they know, not they believe, they know that we are a force.
Okay.
The APC is a force in Nigeria.
All right. Okay, Dr. Harry, well, quickly in just a minute, what factors do you think that Atiku and other opposition leaders might take in order to form a coalition against Tinubu so that the early election might, 2027 election might come out in their favor?
Well, it's expected. It's
All right.
expected. Atiku is a political figure in this country.
Okay.
And we can't in any way rule out.
Well, considering the fact that he has been contesting for that same position over and over.
So it happens to the then president,
All right.
Muhammad Buhari. He contested for a number of times, and at the end of the day, he became the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And so even the current president, when they started the movement of this coalition, 2013 to 2014, and we saw what gave birth to what transferred to what we have today as APC, All Progressive Party, that comprises the PDP, the CPC, some part of other political party that is now ruling this country close to 8 years now. I mean to 12 years or thereabout now. So what I am seeing Atiku doing, like I said, it's a normal thing that happens in a democratic setting.
All right. Well, let's see what you're going to say.
Does he have what it takes?
All right. Well, that's the question we'll look at.
To get it done.
We'll consider.
Also,